The holographic display flickered with numbers that had tormented the greatest minds across 47 species for 3 centuries. Professor Ryloth traced one of his forearms through the glowing symbols, his crystalline eyes reflecting frustration that had become all too familiar. The Mendravian theorem hung in the air like a beautiful, unsolvable puzzle, mocking everyone who dared to understand it. Students filled the lecture hall at Helix 7, the most prestigious mathematics institute in the known galaxy. They came from worlds Ryloth could barely pronounce, each bringing their species' unique approach to problem-solving. The Vrin with their triple helix brains, the Quillen with their four-armed multitasking abilities, the Heptoids who could process 17 calculations simultaneously. All of them brilliant, all of them stuck. 300 years, Ryloth announced, his voice carrying across the silent room. 300 years since mathematician Mindrov first proposed this equation. It promises faster-than-light communication without relay stations. Imagine speaking to someone across the galaxy instantly, without the delay, without the infrastructure. This equation holds that key, yet we cannot solve it. A ripple of movement passed through the students. Some leaned forward eagerly. Others slumped back, already defeated by the legend of the impossible problem. Ryloth had seen both reactions countless times. Any student who contributes even the smallest insight will receive full honors, he continued. I did not expect a solution. After 3 centuries, I will be satisfied with a fresh perspective. Laughter broke out among several Vren students sitting near the front. Their species had produced more celebrated mathematicians than any other. To them, the challenge was amusing rather than inspiring. In the back row, almost hidden behind a cluster of taller students, a human girl sat with a tablet in her lap. Her fingers moved across the screen, taking notes without sound. Lily Reeves had arrived at Helix 7 3 days earlier as part of Earth's new exchange program. She was the first human to study at the Institute, and most students viewed her presence as a political gesture rather than academic merit. Humans were newcomers. Their species had barely left their own solar system when the galactic community found them. Their mathematics were primitive by galactic standards, still using base 10 systems and ancient calculating methods. What could they possibly contribute to problems that had stumped civilizations millions of years more advanced? Korik, a particularly ambitious Vren student, turned in his seat to stare at Lily. His triple helix brain processed information faster than most species could blink, and he had already published 2 papers despite being only 23 cycles old. He considered himself the most likely to make progress on the Mendravian theorem, if anyone could. Professor, Korik called out, his voice dripping with casual superiority. I have a question about our newest student. Ryloth's crystalline eyes shifted to the back of the room, then to Korik. The professor's expression tightened. He knew where this was going. The human, Korik continued, making the word sound like an insult. She has not spoken once since arriving. Should someone unable to participate in academic discourse really occupy a seat at this institution? Several students turned to look at Lily. She kept her eyes on her tablet, her fingers pausing for just a moment before continuing their silent dance across the screen. Her face remained calm, but her jaw tightened slightly. Miss Reeves communicates through written language, Ryloth replied firmly. Her admission scores were exceptional. She has every right to be here. Scores can be inflated for political purposes, Korik said with a shrug. Earth only joined the community 2 years ago. Their inclusion in exchange programs feels more like charity than recognition of actual capability. A few students murmured agreement. Others looked uncomfortable with the open hostility. Pip, a small insectoid student sitting beside Lily, clicked her mandibles in annoyance. Perhaps we should focus on the theorem rather than on our classmates' backgrounds, Ryloth suggested, his tone leaving no room for argument. Unless you have insights to share about the equation itself, Korik, the Vren student smiled, unbothered by the rebuke. I am working on several approaches, Professor. I expect to have preliminary findings within the month. Excellent. I look forward to reviewing them. Ryloth turned back to the holographic display. enlarging a section of the equation. Now, let us examine the quantum field harmonics that form the theorem's foundation. The lecture continued for another hour. Students took notes, asked questions, and debated various approaches to understanding the problem. Lily remained silent throughout, her fingers never stopping their movement across her tablet. She watched the equation with an intensity that would have surprised anyone paying attention, but no one was. After class, students filed out in clusters, already forming study groups and debate circles. Korik gathered several of the top students around him, pointedly excluding anyone he deemed beneath his standards. That included all 3 human students at the institute. Lily packed her tablet slowly, waiting for the crowd to thin. Pip hovered beside her, antennae twitching with residual anger from Korik's comments. "He is such a jerk," Pip said, her voice a series of clicks and whistles that the universal translator rendered into standard speech. "Ignore him. Half the students here think he is insufferable." Lily smiled and typed on her tablet. The device's speaker produced a calm, artificial voice. "He is not entirely wrong. Humans are new here. We have to prove ourselves." "You do not have to prove anything to anyone," Pip insisted, but Lily was already looking back at the holographic display, which still showed fragments of the Mandravian theorem. Her eyes traced the symbols with an expression Pip could not quite identify. It was not confusion or intimidation. It looked almost like recognition, as if Lily was seeing an old friend she had not expected to meet here. Professor Ryloth noticed her lingering as he gathered his materials. "Miss Reeves, do you have questions about today's lecture?" Lily typed quickly. "No questions, Professor. Thank you. You are welcome to review the equation in the study halls. All materials are available to registered students." He paused, studying her face. "Do not let comment from other students discourage you. Every species brings unique perspectives. That includes humans." Lily nodded, offering a small smile of gratitude. She followed Pip out of the lecture hall, her tablet clutched against her chest. Behind them, the holographic theorem continued its slow rotation, waiting for someone to understand its secrets. What none of them knew yet was that the silent human girl had already seen something in those equations that 3 centuries of brilliant minds had missed. She just needed time to be sure. Lily's dormitory room overlooked the docking bay, where ships from across the galaxy arrived every few hours. She sat cross-legged on the floor by the window, her tablet balanced on her knees, watching a cargo freighter maneuver into position. The ship's navigation lights blinked in sequence, red then blue then green, a pattern that repeated with mathematical precision. Pip crawled along the ceiling above her, a habit the insectoid found comforting. Their species slept hanging upside down, but right now Pip was too curious to rest. "You have been staring out that window for 3 hours, Pip observed. "Are you homesick?" Lily shook her head and typed a response. "Just watching." "Watching what?" "Ships. Patterns." Pip's antennae drooped with confusion. "I do not understand humans sometimes." That made Lily smile. She typed again, longer this time. "When I was 12, there was a shuttle accident. My parents died. I was the only survivor. After that, words stopped coming out. Doctors said it was trauma. My brain works fine, but speaking became impossible most of the time." Pip dropped from the ceiling, landing beside Lily with barely a sound. "I am sorry. I did not know. It's okay. I learned to communicate differently. Through writing, through signs, through observation. You notice more when you cannot talk. You have to. Is that why you watch the ships?" Lily nodded. She pointed at her tablet, where she had sketched the blinking pattern of the navigation lights. Beside the sketch were mathematical notations, formulas that described the timing intervals between each color. Everything has patterns. The way ships dock, the way the station's artificial gravity fluctuates, the way Professor Ryloth moves his 4 arms when he is excited versus when he is frustrated. You notice all that. I have to. It is how I understand the world now. Pip settled beside her, mandibles clicking softly in thought. Your homework assignments are better than most students. I peeked at your quantum mechanics paper. Professor Telix gave you top marks. The problems are like puzzles. I see the shapes before I see the numbers. That is not how most people do mathematics. Maybe that is good, Lily typed. Maybe seeing things differently helps. They sat in silence for a while, watching another ship approach. This one was smaller, a private transport with elegant curves and no visible weapons. Its navigation pattern was different, more fluid, less mechanical. What do you think about the Mendravian theorem? Pip asked eventually. Lily's fingers paused over her tablet. She stared at the question for a long moment before typing. Everyone approaches it like breaking a wall, hitting it with bigger hammers, different angles, more force. But what if it is not a wall? What else could it be? A door with a lock. And everyone is trying to break it down instead of finding the key. Pip's antennae perked up. That is an interesting way to think about it. Music works that way. Lily continued typing. On Earth, we have something called harmony. Different notes played together create something new. Some combinations sound beautiful. Others sound terrible. But the individual notes do not change. Only the relationship between them matters. What does music have to do with dimensional mathematics? Lily turned her tablet to show Pip a page filled with musical notation alongside quantum equations. What if dimensional barriers work like harmonics? Not obstacles to break through, but frequencies to match. The theorem assumes dimensions are separated by walls. But what if they overlap, vibrating at different frequencies? Pip stared at the screen, trying to follow Lily's logic. That would mean communication is not about force or power. It would be about finding the right frequency. Exactly. Lily typed faster now, her excitement showing in the speed of her fingers. Like tuning a radio. Earth used to have these devices that picked up signals from the air. You turn a dial until you found the right frequency, and suddenly you could hear voices from far away. Not because you broke through anything, because you matched the frequency. Has anyone tried this approach with the theorem? I searched the database. Nobody has. Every species approaches it through their own mathematical traditions. The Vren use fractal decomposition. The Quillen use parallel processing models. The Heptoids use multidimensional probability matrices. All different methods, but all based on the same assumption that dimensions are separated by barriers to overcome. What if you are right? Pip asked quietly. Then the solution might be simpler than anyone thinks. Not easier, but simpler. Elegant. A notification chimed on Lily's tablet. A message from Professor Ryloth appeared, asking all students to submit preliminary thoughts on potential approaches to the theorem. It was optional, just a way to encourage creative thinking. Most students would probably ignore it or submit something safe and conventional. Korik would definitely submit something elaborate, showing off his triple helix brain's processing power. Lily stared at the message for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Are you going to submit something? Pip asked. I do not know. What if I am wrong? What if this is just human ignorance, not insight? What if you are right and stay silent? That question hung in the air between them. Lily looked back out the window, where a third ship was now docking. Its navigation lights blinked in their own unique pattern, neither matching the cargo freighter nor the private transport. 3 different ships, 3 different rhythms, all existing in the same space without interfering with each other. Because they operated on different frequencies, that Lily's fingers began to move across her tablet, no longer hesitant. She wrote for 2 hours straight, barely noticing when Pip fell asleep hanging from the ceiling fixture. The words poured out, explaining her theory about harmonic frequencies and dimensional overlap. She included sketches, musical notations, and mathematical frameworks that combined Earth's understanding of wave mechanics with the galactic quantum field equations she had been studying. When she finished, she read through it 3 times, checking for errors and clarity. It was not perfect. It was barely even complete. But it was honest, and it was different from anything she had seen in the database. Her finger hovered over the submit button. What would the professors think? What would Korik say? Would they laugh at the human girl who compared cutting-edge dimensional physics to primitive Earth music? But then she thought about her parents, about the shuttle accident, about the silence that had defined her life since then. She had learned to communicate in new ways, to see patterns others missed, to understand that being different was not the same as being wrong. She pressed submit. The confirmation message appeared instantly. Professor Ryloth would review her paper along with any others submitted by students. Whether he would take it seriously or dismiss it as amateur speculation remained to be seen. Lily set her tablet aside and looked out the window one last time. The three ships were still docked, their navigation lights blinking in perfect, non-interfering harmony. She smiled slightly, feeling both terrified and hopeful about what might come next. Above her, Pip mumbled something in her sleep, her antennae twitching with dreams of equations and frequencies and impossible problems that might not be so impossible after all. The power outage struck Helix 7 during third period quantum mechanics. One moment, the holographic displays shone with brilliant equations. The next, everything went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in immediately, bathing the corridors in dim red illumination that made everything look like an old Earth photograph. Professor Telix dismissed class early, her translucent body pulsing with concern. Everyone returned to your dormitories. Maintenance will restore full power shortly. Students filed out, some nervous, others excited by the break in routine. Lily moved against the flow, heading toward the observation deck instead of her room. Pip followed, antennae twitching with curiosity. "Where are you going?" Telix said to go back. Lily typed quickly while walking. "Want to see something?" The observation deck was empty, its massive windows looking out at the station's external structure. In normal conditions, you could barely see the infrastructure because of all the exterior lighting. But now, with only emergency power active, every system became visible. Lily pressed her hands against the cold glass, watching intently. Backup generators hummed to life in sequence, their glow spreading across the station's hull like ripples in water. Shield harmonics pulsed in rhythm, blue waves of protective energy that ebbed and flowed. Life support systems activated with their own pattern, green indicators blinking at precise intervals. "What are you looking at?" Pip asked. Lily did not answer immediately. Her eyes tracked the patterns, her mind racing to keep up with what she was seeing. The backup systems were not random. They were coordinated, each one activating in a specific sequence designed to maximize efficiency while minimizing strain on the power grid. But more than that, they were communicating with each other, not through data cables or wireless signals, but through the timing of their activations. Generator 1 would pulse, and 0.3 seconds later, Shield Sector 4 would respond. Life support in Section 7 would activate, and the pattern would shift again. It was like watching a conversation conducted entirely in rhythm and timing. A conversation in frequencies. Lily's tablet was out before she consciously decided to move. Her fingers flew across the screen, recording the patterns, translating them into mathematical notation. The backup systems operated on different power frequencies to avoid interference. They had to coordinate perfectly or the entire station would collapse into chaos. They were solving a harmony problem in real time, and they did it by matching frequencies rather than fighting for dominance, just like her theory about the Mendelevian theorem. "Pip," Lily typed urgently. "The theorem is not about breaking through dimensional barriers. It is about synchronizing with them." "What do you mean?" Lily's fingers could not type fast enough to keep up with her thoughts. She switched to voice mode, letting the tablet's artificial speaker handle the explanation even though her own voice remained locked in silence. "Look at the backup systems. Each one operates at a different frequency. If they all used the same frequency, they would interfere with each other and cause cascade failures. But because they're different and coordinated, they work together. They create a stable system through harmony, not through dominance." I still do not understand what this has to do with the theorem. Dimensions are not walls. They are frequencies. Our universe vibrates at one frequency. Other dimensions vibrate at others. The Mendelevian theorem tries to describe how to send information across those dimensional gaps, but everyone assumes you need massive power to punch through. What if you just need the right frequency to resonate with? Pip's antennae stood straight up, like tuning into a radio signal. "Exactly. The backup generators just showed me the proof." "Look," Lily displayed her tablet screen, showing the mathematical translation of what they had just witnessed. The pattern of activation is not random. It is a harmonic sequence. Each system waits for the right moment in the frequency cycle to activate, minimizing interference and maximizing efficiency. So if you applied this to dimensional barriers, you would not need to break through them. You would just need to find the right harmonic frequency to pass information through, like singing a note that makes a glass vibrate. You are not forcing anything. You are matching its natural frequency. The lights flickered, and full power began returning to the station. The backup systems started shutting down in the same coordinated sequence, their conversation ending as the primary systems took over. Within minutes, the observation deck's normal lighting returned, washing out the intricate dance Lily had been watching. But she had seen enough. More importantly, she had recorded enough. "I need to expand my paper," she typed frantically. "I need to show Professor Ryloth this connection." "He has not even responded to your first submission yet," Pip pointed out. "I know, but this changes everything. This is not just theory anymore. I can show the proof using the station's own backup systems as a model. If it works for keeping Helix 7 stable, it could work for dimensional communication." They rushed back to the dormitory, Lily's mind spinning with possibilities. She spent the next 8 hours expanding her original paper, incorporating the backup system observations, creating detailed mathematical models that connected harmonic theory to dimensional physics. She barely stopped to eat, fueled by the certainty that she had found something real. Pip tried to help, but eventually gave up, hanging from the ceiling and offering occasional encouragement. "You should sleep. Your brain needs rest." "Almost done," Lily's tablet speaker announced. Her actual voice remained silent, but her fingers never stopped moving. By the time dawn's cycle began, Lily had transformed her speculative paper into a comprehensive theoretical framework. It was still rough, still incomplete in places, but it was substantial. She had combined Earth's musical harmony principles with galactic quantum mechanics, used the station's backup systems as a working example, and proposed a new mathematical approach to the Mendravian theorem. Her finger hovered over the submit button again, but this time she did not hesitate. She pressed it and immediately sent a direct message to Professor Ryloth asking if he had time to review her expanded work. The response came faster than she expected. "Miss Reeves, I read your initial paper 3 times yesterday. It was the most unusual approach I have seen in decades. I am very interested in your expanded version. Please come to my office this afternoon." Lily stared at the message, her heart pounding. Professor Ryloth was interested. He had not dismissed her theory as human ignorance or amateur speculation. He wanted to discuss it. "This is good," Pip said from the ceiling. "Very good." But Lily's hands were shaking. A private meeting with Professor Ryloth meant she would need to communicate directly, either through her tablet or, worse, through attempted speech. It meant putting herself in a vulnerable position where her silence might be seen as weakness rather than simply a different way of existing. "I can come with you," Pip offered, sensing her friend's anxiety. Lily nodded gratefully and typed a response. "Yes, please." She spent the rest of the morning preparing, not just her materials, but herself. This was her chance to prove that humans belonged at Helix 7, that different perspectives had value, that silence could coexist with brilliance. She just hoped Professor Ryloth could see past the obvious differences to the substance underneath. At 18 noon, a message appeared in the student forum. Korik had submitted his preliminary findings on the Mendravian theorem, and several professors were reviewing them. He was already celebrating, confident that his approach would be recognized as groundbreaking. Lily closed the forum without reading the details. Whatever Korik had found, it would be based on traditional methods. Triple helix processing power applied to conventional frameworks. Impressive, probably, but not revolutionary. She had something different to offer. Something that could only come from species that had learned to hear music in mathematics and find patterns in silence. Now, she just needed the courage to share it. Professor Ryloth's office was smaller than Lily expected, packed with ancient texts and modern holographic displays showing equations from dozens of mathematical traditions. 2 of his 4 arms gestured as he spoke, while the other 2 manipulated a floating diagram of quantum field harmonics. "Sit, please," he said, his crystalline eyes reflecting genuine warmth. "I've been thinking about your paper since yesterday. It kept me awake through most of the night cycle. Lily and Pip settled into chairs designed for species much larger than humans. Lily placed her tablet on her lap, her fingers ready to type. Your initial submission was intriguing, Ryloth continued. The comparison between dimensional barriers and musical harmony was creative, though I admit I was skeptical. But your expanded version, incorporating the backup system observations, that changed my perspective entirely. He manipulated the holographic display, bringing up Lily's mathematical framework. You have identified something that 300 years of research missed. We have been treating dimensional barriers as obstacles when they might actually be interfaces. The distinction seems subtle, but mathematically it is profound. Lily typed rapidly. Do you think the approach is valid? Valid? I think it might be revolutionary. But that creates a problem. Ryloth's forearms folded in a gesture that conveyed concern. In 3 days, the senior faculty board is holding a symposium on approaches to the Mendravian theorem. Korik will be presenting his findings. Several other students as well. I would like you to present yours. Lily's fingers froze over her tablet. Present. To the faculty board. That meant standing in front of dozens of the galaxy's most brilliant minds and explaining her theory. That meant being the center of attention, being questioned, being challenged. That meant speaking, or at least trying to. I know about your selective mutism, Ryloth said gently. I reviewed your medical records when you were admitted. I understand this is difficult, but your work deserves to be heard. I cannot speak in front of crowds, Lily typed. Sometimes I cannot speak at all. Then we will find another way. You can use your tablet. You can prepare visual aids. You can bring Pip to help translate. Whatever you need, we will accommodate. What if they do not take me seriously? What if they think I am just a human who does not understand galactic mathematics? Ryloth leaned forward, all four arms coming to rest on his desk. Miss Reeves, I have been teaching for 73 years. I have seen thousands of students from hundreds of species. Most of them are intelligent. Many are brilliant. But very few are genuinely original. You see patterns that others miss because you have trained yourself to observe rather than speak. That is not a weakness. It is a unique, analytical strength. Pip clicked her mandibles in agreement. He is right. You should do this. Lily stared at her tablet screen, reading and rereading Ryloth's words. Revolutionary. Original. Deserves to be heard. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part remembered Korik's mockery, remembered years of being dismissed because her silence made people uncomfortable. I will do it, she typed finally. But I need time to prepare. You have 3 days. Use them well. Over the next 72 hours, Lily barely slept. She refined her mathematical proofs, created interactive holographic models showing how harmonic frequencies could resonate across dimensional barriers, and prepared detailed visual aids that would let her work speak for itself. She practiced with Pip, running through the presentation dozens of times, finding ways to minimize the amount she would need to say out loud. Word spread quickly through Helix 7 that a human student would be presenting at the faculty symposium. Reactions varied. Some students were curious. Others were skeptical. Korik was openly dismissive. The human girl is wasting everyone's time, he announced in the dining hall, loud enough for multiple tables to hear. Ryloth is being kind to her because humans are new to the community. But the faculty board will see through it. You cannot solve a 300-year-old problem by comparing it to primitive Earth music. Several students laughed. A few looked uncomfortable. Lily, sitting at a corner table with Pip, kept her eyes on her food and tried to ignore the comments. Ignore him, Pip said. He is scared you might show him up. He is not wrong, though, Lily typed. I'm using primitive Earth music theory. What if that is exactly why my approach fails? What if it is exactly why your approach succeeds? The day of the symposium arrived with weather protocols simulating a clear morning on some planet Lily had never visited. She stood outside the presentation chamber, her hands shaking, her tablet clutched against her chest like a shield. Inside, over 40 senior faculty members were already seated, along with a handful of advanced students who had been invited to observe. Korik had presented first, delivering a confident explanation of his fractal decomposition approach to the theorem. The faculty had asked several technical questions, all of which he answered smoothly. When he finished, scattered applause acknowledged his effort. Now it was Lily's turn. "You can do this," Pip whispered. "I will be right there with you." Lily nodded and stepped into the chamber. Every eye turned toward her. Some looked curious. Others looked skeptical. A few looked actively hostile, as if her presence was an insult to the institution's prestige. Professor Ryloff stood at the front, all four arms gesturing welcome. "Faculty members, students, I present Miss Lily Reeves, human exchange student, with a novel approach to the Mendravian theorem." Lily walked to the presentation platform, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. She placed her tablet on the podium and looked out at the audience. Her throat tightened. Words formed in her mind, but refused to emerge from her mouth. She cleared her throat and managed a whisper. "Thank you for this opportunity." Her voice was barely audible, even with the chamber's acoustic enhancement. Several faculty members leaned forward, straining to hear. Lily saw the skepticism growing in their expressions. This was the brilliant human student, this frightened girl who could barely speak. But then she activated her holographic displays, and everything changed. The Mendravian theorem appeared, but not in its traditional form. Lily had reconstructed it as a series of wave patterns, showing dimensional barriers not as walls, but as overlapping frequencies. Musical notation appeared alongside quantum equations, showing the mathematical harmony between seemingly unrelated fields. Dimensions are not separated by walls. Her tablet's artificial voice announced, clear and steady, even though her own voice remained trapped. They're separated by frequency differences. Communication across dimensions is not about breaking through barriers. It is about finding the correct harmonic resonance. She demonstrated using the backup system data from the power outage, showing how different frequencies could coexist and communicate through precise timing and coordination. Then she applied the same principles to dimensional physics, showing mathematical proofs that her harmonic approach could work where force-based methods had failed. The holographic displays showed simulations, waves of different frequencies finding resonance points, information passing between dimensional layers like sound traveling through different materials. It was elegant and simple and completely unlike anything the faculty had seen before. Lily guided them through each step of her reasoning, using her visual aids to compensate for her limited voice. She showed how Earth's musical theory of harmony could be translated into quantum field mathematics. She demonstrated how her approach simplified problems that had seemed impossibly complex. When she finished, silence filled the chamber. Lily stood at the podium, her heart pounding, unable to read the expressions around her. Had she failed? Had they dismissed her work as amateur speculation? Then Professor Ryloff began to applaud, all four arms moving in the Quillen gesture of highest respect. One by one, other faculty members joined him. Not scattered polite applause like Korik had received, but genuine sustained recognition that a senior heptoid mathematician stood up, her 17 eyes focused intently on the holographic displays. "Miss Reeves, this is extraordinary. Have you tested these frequency calculations against known quantum field variations?" Lily typed quickly, her confidence growing. "Yes, Professor. The data is in Appendix 3. Questions came rapidly after that. Technical inquiries about her mathematical frameworks, requests for clarification on specific proofs, challenges to test if she truly understood what she had created. Lily answered each one through her tablet, her visual aids supporting every response. Korik sat in the student observation section, his confident expression slowly crumbling into shocked disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. The human was not supposed to be brilliant. She was supposed to be a diversity admission, a political gesture, not a genuine threat to his academic dominance. The verification process began at dawn cycle the next morning. Professor Ryloff assembled a team of specialists from 7 different mathematical disciplines, each tasked with testing Lily's harmonic frequency framework against established quantum mechanics and dimensional physics. Lily attended every session, her tablet ready to answer questions and clarify her reasoning. Dr. Havish, a renowned Quillen quantum physicist, spent 6 hours running simulations based on Lily's frequency calculations. His four arms moved constantly across multiple holographic interfaces, feeding her equations into the Institute's most powerful computing arrays. Lily sat nearby, watching nervously while Pip provided silent moral support. The harmonics hold, Havish announced finally, his crystalline eyes reflecting surprise. I ran your frequency matching protocols against 17 different dimensional barrier models. In each case, your approach achieves information transmission with 97% efficiency. Traditional force-based methods achieve 32% at best. What about energy requirements? Asked Dr. Selvin, a heptoid mathematician observing from her floating platform. Minimal. That is the remarkable part. Miss Reeves' method does not require massive power expenditures because it is not fighting against dimensional barriers. It is working with them, finding natural resonance points. The energy needed is comparable to what we use for standard communication arrays. Word spread through Helix 7 like a shockwave. The impossible theorem might actually be solved, not through centuries of incremental progress, but through a complete paradigm shift proposed by a human student who had been at the Institute for less than 2 weeks. Student reactions varied dramatically. Some were excited, genuinely happy to witness a breakthrough. Others were resentful, particularly those who had spent years working on traditional approaches. Korik fell into the latter category. She must have had help, he insisted to anyone who would listen. No human could solve this alone. Ryloth probably gave her the solution to make Earth look good politically. But the faculty's verification reports said otherwise. Lily's mathematical frameworks included uniquely human conceptual elements that no other species had considered. Her combination of musical harmony theory with quantum mechanics was so unusual that it could only have come from someone who truly understood both fields intimately. 3 days after the presentation, Professor Ryloth called another meeting in his office. This time, several senior faculty members attended, including the Institute's director, ancient Vren named Orthix, who had been studying the Mendravian theorem for over a century. Miss Reeves, Orthix began his triple helix brain processing thoughts faster than most species could speak. Your work has been verified by our best specialists. Your harmonic approach is not only mathematically sound, it is practically applicable. We are recommending immediate implementation testing. Lily's fingers trembled over her tablet. Implementation. We want to build a prototype communication array based on your frequency matching protocols, Ryloth explained. If it works, we will be able to communicate across dimensional barriers for the first time in galactic history. The Galactic Council is already interested, another professor added. They have been monitoring our verification process. This could revolutionize infrastructure across the community. Lily typed carefully. I am honored, but I did not solve this alone. I built on 300 years of work by others. I just saw a different angle that nobody else saw. Orthix corrected. Do not diminish your achievement, Miss Reeves. Original thinking is rare, regardless of species. You have contributed something genuinely new to mathematics. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing publication timelines, patent considerations, and collaboration opportunities. Lily listened through the growing surreal feeling that her life had changed completely in less than a week. When she finally left Ryloth's office, she found a crowd of students waiting in the corridor. Some wanted to congratulate her. Others had questions about her methods. A few simply wanted to be associated with the human who solved the impossible problem. Pip guided her through the crowd, and Tinny twitching protectively. You need rest. Too many people. They made it halfway to the dormitory before Korik stepped in front of them. His expression was complicated, mixing resentment with something that might have been reluctant respect. Your presentation was impressive, he said stiffly. Lily stopped, surprised by the approach. She typed a careful response. Thank you. I underestimated you. I assumed humans were intellectually inferior. That was arrogant and wrong. Several students had followed at a distance, watching the interaction with intense interest. Everyone knew about Korik's public dismissal of Lily's capabilities. This public acknowledgement was significant. I want to apologize, Korik continued, not just for my comments in class, but for my attitude toward your species. I judged based on preconceptions rather than evidence. That is the opposite of good science. Lily studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity. But his triple helix brain made his expressions difficult to read for someone who had only known humans. She decided to take the apology at face value. "Apology accepted," she typed. "We all make assumptions. I assumed you were just mean. But maybe you were scared I might be good." Korik blinked, surprised by the directness. Then he laughed, a sharp sound that made several watching students jump. "You are perceptive." "Yes, I was scared. I have always been the best in my class. Having my position threatened was uncomfortable. Being the best is lonely," Lily typed. "Collaboration is better. Is that an offer to work together? If you want. Your fractal decomposition methods could combine well with my harmonic approach. We might solve other problems faster together." Cora considered this, his brain processing the implications at extraordinary speed. Finally, he nodded. "I would like that. Despite my earlier behavior, I do respect good mathematics. And yours is very good." They parted with an awkward but genuine sense of mutual respect. As Lily continued toward her dormitory, she realized how much had changed. A week ago, she had been the silent outsider, barely tolerated and frequently mocked. Now she was the student who solved a 300-year-old problem, and even her harshest critic was offering collaboration. Back in her room, Lily collapsed on her bed while Pip crawled to her favorite ceiling spot. The exhaustion of the past few days hit all at once. "You did it," Pip said softly. "You actually did it." "We did it," Lily typed. "You supported me through everything. I just kept you company. You did the thinking." Lily smiled and stared at the ceiling where her friend hung upside down. Thinking is easier with a friend nearby. Her tablet chimed with notifications. Dozens of messages from professors, students, and institutions across the galaxy. Interview requests from scientific journals. Collaboration proposals from research facilities. An official commendation from Earth Science Council congratulating her achievement. But the message that made her pause came from an unexpected source. It was a communication from the Galactic Community's Education Commission, informing her that her work would be included in standard mathematical curricula across member species. Future students would learn about harmonic dimensional theory and the human girl who changed how the galaxy understood space itself. "That is incredible," Pip said, reading over her shoulder. "That is terrifying," Lily typed. "What if I am wrong? What if there is a flaw we have not found yet? Then you will find it and fix it. That is what scientists do. But I do not think you are wrong. Too many smart people have checked your work." Lily wanted to believe that. She wanted to trust that her insights were genuine rather than lucky accidents. But doubt was a constant companion, especially for someone whose silence had taught her to question everything, including herself. Her tablet displayed the original Mendravian theorem beside her modified version. 300 years of brilliant minds had looked at those symbols and seen an impossible puzzle. She had looked at the same symbols and seen a song waiting to be heard, frequencies waiting to harmonize. Maybe being different was exactly what the problem needed. Maybe humanity's outsider perspective, their relative newness to galactic mathematics, had been an advantage rather than a disadvantage. Fresh eyes seeing old problems in new ways. Outside her window, ships continued their eternal dance of arrivals and departures, navigation lights blinking in perfect non-interfering patterns. Lily watched them for a while, finding comfort in the familiar rhythms. "What are you going to do now?" Pip asked. Lily thought about that question carefully before typing her response. "Keep learning. Keep watching for patterns. Keep proving that humans belong here not because of charity, but because we have something valuable to contribute. You already proved that. Once is not enough. I need to do it again and again until nobody questions it anymore. That might take a while." "That is okay," Lily typed. "I'm patient. Silent people usually are." She closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to rest after the most intense week of her life, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems, new opportunities to show what humans could do when given the chance to be heard. 6 months passed in a blur of recognition, implementation, and transformation. The prototype communication array built using Lily's harmonic frequency protocols exceeded every expectation. achieving cross-dimensional communication with 98.4% accuracy. The test messages sent through dimensional barriers and back took nanoseconds rather than the hours required by traditional relay stations. The Galactic Institute held a formal ceremony to honor Lily's achievement. Representatives from 47 member species attended, filling the grand hall with colors, shapes, and forms that Earth had only dreamed about in ancient science fiction. Lily stood on the stage wearing a simple blue dress from Earth, her tablet in hand, while Professor Ryloth read her official commendation. The Breakthrough Prize in Theoretical Mathematics is awarded to Lily Reeves of Earth for revolutionary contributions to dimensional physics and communication theory. At 19 standard years, she is the youngest recipient in the prize's 3-century history and the first human to receive this honor. The applause was thunderous, a sound composed of claps, clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones from species whose languages were music itself. Lily felt tears forming but refused to let them fall. She had worked too hard to cry now. When the noise finally subsided, she stepped forward to the podium. Every eye in the hall focused on her, waiting to hear what the brilliant human would say. Her throat tightened with familiar anxiety, but she forced words out, quiet but audible through the acoustic enhancement. "Thank you," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "This honor means everything to me. But I want to say something important." She paused, gathering her courage, her fingers touching her tablet for reassurance. For 300 years, the best minds in the galaxy tried to solve the Mendravian theorem. They failed not because they were not smart enough, but because they were trapped by their assumptions. Everyone approached the problem through their own mathematical traditions, their own ways of thinking. Those traditions were brilliant, but they were also limiting. Her voice grew slightly stronger as she continued. Humans are new to the galactic community. We do not have millions of years of advanced mathematics. We are primitive in many ways. But that newness was an advantage. We were not trapped by 3 centuries of unsuccessful attempts. We could see the problem fresh, without preconceptions. She looked out at the audience, making eye contact with as many beings as possible. My solution was not just human thinking. It built on the work of every species that tried before me. Vrin fractal analysis, Quilon parallel processing, heptoid probability matrices. I stood on the shoulders of giants from 47 worlds. I just added one new perspective, one different angle. Professor Ryloth's 4 arms gestured approval. Other faculty members leaned forward, listening intently. Different minds see different solutions, Lily continued. My silence taught me to observe carefully, to find patterns others might miss. That was my contribution, not superior intelligence, just different observation. Every species, every individual, has unique ways of understanding the universe. The galaxy is richer when we combine those perspectives rather than compete with them. She held up her tablet, the device that had been her voice for so many years. I cannot always speak with my mouth, but I can always communicate. There are many ways to share ideas, many ways to contribute. Being different is not a weakness. It is just different. Sometimes different is exactly what a problem needs. The hall erupted in applause again, but this time Lily managed a genuine smile. She had said what needed saying, despite her anxiety, despite her limitations. Her voice had been heard in the way that mattered most. After the ceremony, dozens of species representatives approached her with opportunities. Research positions at prestigious institutes. Collaboration proposals on unsolved problems. Teaching positions where she could train others in her unique analytical methods that Earth's ambassador to the galactic community, a stern woman named Director Williams, pulled Lily aside during the reception. "You have done something remarkable for humanity's reputation. Other species are requesting human mathematicians, human physicists, human researchers. They want the fresh perspective you demonstrated." "That is good," Lily typed. "Humans have a lot to offer." "Indeed. We are expanding the exchange program tenfold. Hundreds of Earth students will study at galactic institutions next year, thanks to the doors you opened." Lily felt the weight of that responsibility, but also the satisfaction. She had proven humans belonged not through politics or charity, but through genuine contribution. That was worth every moment of anxiety and self-doubt. Korik found her near the refreshment tables, where Pip was excitedly trying foods from 17 different worlds. The Vren student had changed considerably over the past months. His arrogance had softened into confidence tempered by humility. "I have a proposal," he said without preamble. "I am forming a research group focused on applying your harmonic methods to other long-standing problems. I would like you to lead it." Lily's eyebrows rose. She typed quickly. "You want me to lead? You are more experienced." Experience is not the same as insight. You have proven you can see solutions others miss. I can provide computational power and traditional analysis. Together, we would be formidable. What problems would we tackle? Everything. Faster than light travel, quantum consciousness theories, universal translation without artificial devices. The galaxy is full of problems that need different perspectives. Lily considered this carefully. "I would want the team to be diverse. Multiple species, multiple thinking styles. Obviously, that is the entire point of what you taught us." They shook hands, sealing the partnership. Lily had arrived at Helix, 7 as an outsider, barely tolerated. Now she was building coalitions, leading research teams, changing how the galaxy approached scientific problems. Later that evening, Lily returned to her dormitory room, exhausted but content. Pip had already claimed her ceiling spot, mandibles clicking softly in sleep. The observation deck window showed the familiar dance of arriving and departing ships, their navigation lights blinking in perfect harmony. Lily opened her tablet and started a new document. Not a research paper this time, but a personal journal entry. She wanted to remember this day, this feeling, this moment when everything changed. 6 months ago, I was terrified, she wrote. I thought my silence made me weak, that being different meant being less. But I learned something important. The universe speaks in many languages. Mathematics is one. Music is another. Silence is another. Each has value. Each reveals different truths. She paused, watching ships move through the darkness of space, each one following its own path, but contributing to the larger pattern. Humans are new to the galaxy. We will make mistakes. We will struggle with concepts that other species mastered millions of years ago. But we will also see things they cannot, simply because we come from a different starting point. That is not weakness. That is humanity's strength. Tomorrow, I start building the research team with Korik. We will tackle problems that have frustrated the galaxy for centuries. Will we solve them? Maybe. Maybe not. But we will try with fresh eyes and open minds and the knowledge that different perspectives create better solutions. She looked at her reflection in the window, seeing a young woman who had traveled from Earth to the stars and found her place among beings she once thought were beyond her reach. I am Lily Reeves, she wrote. I am human. I am silent more often than not. And I belong here, not because someone gave me charity, but because I earned it, because I contributed something valuable, because different minds see different solutions, and the galaxy needs every perspective it can find. She closed the tablet and watched the ships for a while longer, finding peace in their eternal patterns. Outside that window, the galaxy continued its ancient dance. But now humans were part of that dance, no longer observers, but participants. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they had proven they could contribute something unique. Lily smiled and whispered to the empty room, her voice quiet but real. We belong here. Finally, we belong. In the morning, there would be new problems to solve, new challenges to face, new opportunities to prove humanity's worth. But tonight, Lily simply enjoyed the moment, watching ships navigate the stars while her best friend slept peacefully on the ceiling above. The silent human girl had found her voice in mathematics, in patterns, in the universal language of curiosity and discovery. And the galaxy was listening.